Welcome to the Cloud Computing Insider. This channel explores the ins and outs of cloud computing without an agenda or following into the narrative set by big tech marketing. We look at what works, what does not, and the actual value of this technology in a balanced and information forward way. If that interests you, please subscribe, like, and comment. I'm your host, David Linthicum, author, speaker, B-list geek. So let's get started. So I'm going to loving this topic today because it's near and dear to my heart, having coming from a big six consulting firm and having to work these things behind the scenes and actually getting the culture to adopt technology, in this case AI, and the ability for people to do it in a way that's going to be productive, lead to a productive end. So we have lots of potential for AI, and we have the technology that's capable of moving forward in the marketplace. What we seem to be lacking is the ability to have a culture and have an organization that's ready to adopt it. Others adapt to the power of it, adjust their expectations, and really kind of get into the swing of the fact that we need to get some value out of this technology, which is costing a lot of money. And something people have a tendency to leave that behind and just kind of focus on throwing the technology out there without thinking about how that needs to occur. So we're seeing a huge growth in the AI marketplace right now. Global AI market is projected to reach 2.74 trillion T by 2032. That's immense, with a CAGR of 21.4% from 2024. So the challenges of getting employees to embrace this at a scale that I think businesses need to see the amount of value that's going to come back to it is a larger nut to crack. And obviously, I'm a layman in that area. So joining me today, we have some industry experts. We have Nick Brackney from Dell and Matt Hausmann, from Nvidia. So Nick, introduce yourself.
Yeah, I've been doing tech marketing for about 20 years now, and everything from cloud to IoT, and the latest obviously has been AI, generative AI, and even now agentic AI. So I've been spending all my time in the last 2 years really ramping on this technology and staying abreast of the latest and the greatest.
Okay, Matt.
Yeah, Matt Hausmann with Nvidia. Similar, I think, to you guys. This has just been, an interest, a passion of mine for decades now. And so if I look back, it's really just figuring out how to take data and apply analytics to it to get different insights. So from the early days of BI and data warehousing to big data to the kind of classical machine learning, deep learning in the late 2010s, and now to all the advancements we have with generative AI, and I think we're gonna talk some future looking stuff as well. So let's get into this. Let's geek out. I mean, I think this is all of our passions. Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about the AI adoption. Let's talk about overcoming some of the challenges that are there and how to unlock the full potential of AI within the organizations. And I think this, like I said, this is an underserved problem that's costing businesses a lot of money. And so you guys like me who geek out on AI and doing the AI architectures and building the big generative AI systems in there, then deploy them and then figure out they're not necessarily returning the value because people are missing the cultural aspects of it. So Nick, I'm going to go to you first. So why is it so important to normalize this AI adoption within the culture of these organizations? And why have we been missing it? And how can employees achieve this? In other words, how can I work on making my employees appreciate this AI technology a bit more than they had before and finding the value of it?
Yeah, I think the first thing is this tool sometimes comes across as being magical, right? And the reality is it's a tool just like anything else. And I had someone, I was on a trip to Mexico early last year, and they were trying to learn about generative AI and trying to figure out what is it good for. They own their own business, and the use cases are endless. And so one of the problems is you kind of have to learn each and every use case. And I in this case, this person had a receipt, and it had a bunch of Spanish on it. We were able to take a picture of it and translate it instantly into English. And I was like, that's an example of what it's there for, But that's one small fraction of the endless possibilities. And I think that the challenge right now is you have to really build a habit, and human beings are really bad at building habits. Sometimes I joke that we're sitting here at the end of January, and how many of those New Year's resolutions have fallen down, right? And so it's really important, as an organization, you build the right culture, the leadership gets behind it, that you figure out what the workflows are for your employees, try to make it as easy as possible for them to ease into AI, and really to bring it into their workflows so it becomes second nature for them.
Yeah, Nick,
Awesome.
yeah, I was gonna say, I think you're spot on with that. I think that culture, and I liked you're talking about, technology and magic, right? With every new technology, breakthrough, there really is, a very small barrier between that breakthrough and what feels and seems like magic to people. And I think there's a fear part of that with something that people don't understand, what a company might not understand, right? And kind of bringing that into a culture. So I'd kind of, I guess I'd echo what you said. I'd also kind of talk just internally. I think what I'm saying is that magic kind of fear of an unknown of how to apply this seems to be a barrier that people are running into, and it's kind of, um, how do I take that first step? What is the right first step? And what we're seeing in AI is it's moving so fast that it's like people were worried I'm going to take this first step and it's the wrong step and I stepped in the wrong direction and now I'm invested over here. So I think that where things have moved, with our technologies that we work on together, with the software, with the infrastructure, it's so flexible and fluid to be able to take the new techniques and pivot along with that. And what we're really doing is kind of, the rising tide is that the level that people are coming into things is we're giving you the right tools, we're giving you the right capabilities, again, to do a multitude of different things. You don't have to be scared about taking that first step. And it's almost, that's the biggest barrier, is you need to start, not be afraid of AI. You need to take a step into it, and you need to start building it into your company and figuring out how to leverage it. And then, yeah, as it pivots, as new models come out, right? If you have the right technologies in place, you can also mature and move with that.
So, Matt, kind of back to you. I mean, this is great that you're following up proactively with this. So, at the end of the day, you guys are a technology company, but you're realizing that this is a barrier to adoption of your technology. Same with you, Nick. And technology organizations are thinking about doing this, which probably is a bit of a paradigm change from 20 years ago. So they understand that the changes need to occur. So, question for both of you: is this a matter of fear, or a matter of fear of failure, a matter of feel that this technology is going to replace the jobs, all of the above? What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, first off, from our own personal usage, inside our company, I think there is a fear of failure that is out there, which is kind of funny because when I've been teaching people internally, as an advocate of the technology, I say, don't be afraid to fail, right? This thing is so fast that even if it takes you 5, 6, 7 tries to get the prompt right, you're still off and running. Like I was able to build an entire outline for a sovereign AI, governmental deck, presentation for that audience. I didn't know the first thing about that persona, but I was able to build that in about 2 weeks. And that's including the time and creative and all that kind of stuff too that we're not using the AI tool for yet. It's so fast, it can really make the difference in your world. But then the other challenge is there is a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt when it comes to this technology. The myth that AI will replace us, and the thing is that I'm a big advocate of a human in the loop, right? What I'm able to do with this technology is a force multiplier for me, and I think that whether it's like in the case of that the sovereign AI deck, unlocking new skills, unlocking new personas, being able to tackle things I wouldn't have been able to otherwise, whether it's the speed, or the ability to juggle multiple things now. I'm very busy, but this is allowing me to do so much more. So I think it's really important to celebrate wins as an organization. It's really important to also ensure that you're setting the right message and you're reinforcing that with your behaviors as a company.
Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's really it's almost like a confusion point people are at, or companies are at, is there's just too many options, right? I mentioned before, like the AI techniques have been changing, and there's some, it seems magical and kind of uncertain about where to go and where to start. But also, if you just look at the amount of tools and options that you have out there too, I mean, there's hundreds of different AI software, companies out there that are all doing, different parts of the AI pipeline, and it's really, it's almost like it's hard to make a decision and pick the right, the right direction. So I think that confusion is a barrier to entry, more than anything else. And Dave, you mentioned our companies like are doing things to make this easier. And I think from the Nvidia perspective, that's where you're seeing a lot of innovation from us on the software side. Is if you're not a top 50 government or organization in the world that has all of this capability in house, we're really helping to give you the tools to get you started and give you the foundation to build, deploy, develop, and then also mature and move with the AI market. And so you take some of that guesswork out of it. So I think that's a component people run into. It's almost, I don't know where to start. There's 1,000 different applications out there. Which one's the right one for me? So I think just getting over that hump, kind of going back to my original point, is there's things that are out there to make it easy today. Go out and get started, and the investments that you make, right, can grow and move with you.
So, moving on, smash cut to last week, and my mom called me up, and she's working with Apple Intelligence and trying to figure out how to make this work together. And I kind of realized that what was missing there was no collaborative agreement, so to speak, no collaborative relationship with the humans and the people who are leveraging this technology. And I think Apple Intelligence was a good instance of that. I think they missed a good part of the marketplace when they pushed it out ultimately, and successful. And obviously the platform is going to be awesome, but you got to understand how these things are going to work together. So, how do you effectively craft a human machine partnership where employees are collaborating with AI? They view it as something that's productive for them. They view that as something that's going to take their jobs to the next level, make their jobs easier, make their life easier, like all the other personal tools we're seeing out in the marketplace right now. Nick, I'd love to get your ideas first.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I think it has to be familiar, right? It can't be something that asks them to change a lot of what they're already doing. It should work the way that they want it to work. At Dell with marketing and what we're doing here with it, it was really important to have the business and IT come together defining the solution. And so, I was involved in early testing of our AI solution for marketing. And I think that's really a key. It's really interesting is, we've been doing these Gen AI days. Matt's been to a couple of them too,
Yep.
with Dell and Nvidia, and we're trying to get the business and IT teams into the same room to have those conversations, because unlike any other technology, it's like if you deploy this and stand it up and think that you've sized it and it's good, it's not going to work. And this is only going to get even more critical when we start talking about agentic AI, right? Because agentic AI, you're taking process automation, think runbooks, and then you're smashing that up with an LLM, which can give you adaptability, right? It can decide what runbooks to run, but you have to really understand the business process for that to work. And I think that's where people are really tripping themselves up, is that they go in, they deploy something without understanding what the business process is, and then you just hope the users themselves will take on that burden of figuring it out. And I think that is a huge mistake.
Couldn't agree more. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I think the collaboration piece is really huge, and I think there's a piece there of just you need to shift how you think about how you're going to work and how you're going to interact. So there's an adaptability we all need to have. We have to continue to learn about new technologies and about new capabilities, and maybe kind of rethink and kind of reframe how we do our jobs, how we live our lives. Like, a couple of simple examples, in my life experience, right? ChatGPT, I think everyone on this call, I'm sure, is using, but um, I wasn't using it very effectively the first 6 months I was using it. And then I started learning and kind of understanding, how do I give better prompts? How do I ask better questions? How do I seed it and work with it that it's complementing what I'm doing? And so, as opposed to it just giving me a static answer to a question, as I learned that I could actually interact with it and prompt it and ask it better questions. And so now the relationship or the collaboration I have with ChatGPT is a lot more effective, and I get a lot more out of it. Autonomous driving. I struggled initially with my car, with it actually course correcting and doing things that I didn't understand when it was going to do it or why it was going to do it. I feel like it took over a course of a few months, like learning how to collaborate with it. Oh, we're driving this vehicle together. And my role in this is to oversee and to work on the edge cases or to understand the emotions of the other driver that's there, or the, making eye contact, or saying, how these lanes are coming together that maybe the AI in the car hasn't been trained on or isn't as effective. But we're working together to get this vehicle to where I need to be in a safe and efficient manner, right? So it's really, I think, that collaborative piece and being able to learn and understand what's happening, adapting to it, and then understanding kind of what your role is with the AI to be more productive, to be safer, in those two examples.
So, Nick, kind of back to you, kind of since the whole generative AI revolution of a couple of years ago, do you think people are more in line with the value that this technology is able to provide, whether it's in their personal lives or, at work, or are we just starting to figure out where that collaboration needs to occur and how people need to have a relationship with this technology? I think everybody still seems to be on a learning journey. What's your perspective?
I definitely think it is still early, and it's kind of funny because it felt like we crossed into the trough of disillusionment last year. Halfway through the year, everyone all of a sudden went from like, this is the best thing since sliced bread to, oh, I'm concerned about this, or it's not giving me value. I can speak for myself. It's been 3 or 4 months of really heavy usage for me, and it's really starting to show up in my work and what I'm able to accomplish. So I think it's early. I think that the big thing here is continual reinforcement. Just keep trying. If you don't get the right result, that's the good thing, is you can just ask it another question. You can lean into it, and I think we're definitely going to see a huge productivity boom out of this, and it's hopefully going to result in the organizations that have embraced this technology being more competitive, being able to address new markets and deliver better quality product, and that's something I'm seeing for me is I'm faster and I'm delivering better value. So hopefully that's what we can see for everyone.
Absolutely. What are your final thoughts on this, Matt?
Yeah, like I said, I think this collaborative AI and humans is happening. It's happened. It's happening. It's going to continue to happen. Again, we need to keep thinking about what our role is and how to best work with AI and apply AI to our problems. I think we're going to see a fundamental shift as we move to more of an agentic AI approach. And I know that our two companies have talked a lot about this, as well as we're really moving to getting better answers from AI, where it's not just asking a singular question, and that we might have agents actually working and doing multiple different paths for us. So the examples that that I talked about were basically a singular AI that I'm working with is now we're going to work, thinking about having 5, 10, 15, 20 agents that you're working with, and they're out there asking other questions and doing some thinking and even checking on itself before it gets to you. Again, this is where understanding what your role is, adapting and learning are going to be key to leveraging it in the future. I think the other pivot with that, I guess it kind of comes back to the infrastructure side of things. This also moves us to really investing in different parts you know of of the spectrum. Where I think originally we looked at investing in AI as investing in all the training pieces. As we really focus here on the inference and more complex kind of longer thinking inference, we can now basically redirect those resources and put them where they're actually going to have an impact, and we're actually seeing value come out of them. So I think that's kind of huge, as well as people pivot how they invest and where they're getting the value. Is we're leveraging all the foundations that we have today, and we're moving to this smarter, more interactive inference, which is going to, again, it's going to change how we work. It's going to change our roles and how we collaborate.
Yeah, I love what both Matt and Nick said, really kind of about the movement into agentic, because I do think it's going to be a fundamental better way. Not It's going to be a different kind of way to deliver the value of AI. And so, in the past, the generative AI systems were these big monolithic systems that we could have conversations with and they could respond back. But the ability to kind of have this thing broken off into particular agents that have a persona and have these things work together in an intelligent way and have these agents running all over the place. And I know NVIDIA is addressing this with some of the edge-based systems that are coming out with different processors and things like that. I just see that ultimately along the line with these big, massive LLMs, which is definitely going to have value, but these more incremental, more tactical deployments of AI are really what are going to deliver more value moving forward. And we're just at the beginning of this. And I talk people through the agentic AI architecture stuff when I teach it, and they come back to me and tell me that's the fundamental change. I really see it coming. I just look at the enabling technology is able to make this happen, and you don't really necessarily understand this as an architect to see the value coming off, but everybody's reporting that out. Better use cases, better capability, better utilization of AI. Doesn't mean LLMs aren't necessarily going to have the place, but small language models and leveraging agentic in the context of agents just really seems to be something that seems to be catching on. So if you could give practical advice for someone in charge of implementation of this stuff, no, excuse me, with these advancements, with all these advancements coming up, agentic utilization of LLMs and all the big, big news items that we're seeing currently, with these advances expected in the next few years, what should companies do right now? So should companies wait to do AI? Do they go, this is moving too fast, I'm not going to jump on the merry-go-round yet? Or should they get in there and start understanding the value that this stuff is able to bring? Nick, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting things, and I'll start with an interesting place, is a couple weeks ago, Elon Musk said that we've run out of data to train these models. And I would suggest that he's actually wrong. There's a source of data we haven't trained these models on, and that's the company's data, right? What's on the intranet. And the thing is the first thing you can do to future-proof anything is, get your data house in order. So data preparation, all that work you can do. If you do a good job with that, and then you do a good job mapping your business processes, those things are things that will stick with you even as models change. And so, one of the great things with NVIDIA and working with them is we're deploying, full stack, validated designs. And then, you can turn around in 6 months. Oh, hey, instead of Llama 3, now it's Llama 4, or it's something new like DeepSeek or whatever, and you can swap out, and all that work you've done on the business process, the data prep, will serve you, and so it makes it a lot easier to get going. And I would say that any work you're doing today on generative AI, so let's say I'm working to make generative AI, the messaging stronger for Dell employees, right? All that work that we do to make sure that it sounds like it should for Dell employees, if we turn around tomorrow and we create a customer service an agent that sits on Dell.com, the nice thing is you can take that work and that LLM and you can just port it right over. So it's not like it's wasted, effort. You're going to be building on top of it. So, it's kind of like a crawl, walk, run. Do the easy generative AI stuff now, the stuff with the human in the loop. Start moving towards agentic with, I think we have a little acronym for this, LEARNs, low risk activities. Those are great for agentic, emerging. So things that human beings don't have a good understanding of, arduous tasks. So things like, night watchmen, or, the people who are, always on call for when a service fails. Wouldn't it be nice to have an agent that could do that so they could actually get out of the house? And then you have, remedial tasks, things like taking notes in meetings. If you're using Microsoft Teams, you're no longer taking any notes; it's taking them for you. So that's fantastic. And then there's some certain things are not worth it, right? It's never been a really good idea for us to invest in. So I would love to have every single piece of marketing material I've ever put out there get sentiment analysis on it, but that's just too cost prohibitive, right? And then finally, the speed. Things that either because of scale and scope or the need for real time, human beings aren't equipped to do. So, those are all good tasks to hand over to agentic AI, I think. But like we said before, start with generative AI and progress into agentic, and I think that's a really good way to do it.
So, Matt, what are some of the misconceptions that companies have out there and that are causing them to wait maybe unproductively?
I think the biggest misconception is that it's not mature and that they're gonna take a step in the wrong direction. I guess in my career, which is coming up on decades now, I feel like companies that wait, fall behind. Like that's the simplest thing to look at. And I get not wanting to invest in the most bleeding edge things that cost a lot of money, and there's some risk involved. But like Nick was saying, like the classical AI, methods, the generative AI methods are all understood and tried and true. We're doing them internally at our own companies. Hundreds of corporations and governments around the world have implemented them. We've taken all those learnings and we're now delivering them as AI factories, and giving you the foundation of what we did at these massive scales that you can bring to your business. And I think that this is actually a huge thing for smaller businesses that maybe didn't have the money to invest in these huge infrastructures. The foundational things are done. The software tools, the AI factory, infrastructure pieces have all been figured out. And again, you can now invest in the fine tuning and the augmentation, and the inference pieces where you're getting immediate value from. And the productivity again for a smaller company versus a bigger company, if you've only got 100, 200 employees, 1,000 employees versus these companies with tens of thousands of employees, getting AI and getting your people more productive is going to have an immediate, you know, surge in your ability to compete and adapt in the market. So yeah, I guess again, just kind of in summary, I I don't think this is figured out. The risk is low. I think waiting is going to hurt you ultimately.
Yeah, the way I explain it to my clients is this is going to be an innovative differentiator for them. So it's not optional that you're able to skip this one or even delay this one. Ultimately, becomes your
Yeah.
business. And so I see, supply chain automation systems, leveraging generative AI capabilities, the ability to kind of make perfect decisions based on perfect knowledge and perfect information, as perfect as it can be, and do so in real time and embed those back into the business processes is just too beneficial to businesses. They're able to run at a lower cost, higher efficiency, and get to a higher level of innovation, which will be the differentiator in the marketplace. So if I'm, doing something like manufacturing tires, it's very difficult for me to be different than the other, 20, 30 tire manufacturers in the world. But my ability to leverage AI as a force multiplier for the business, or I'm able to manufacture tires that are more cost effective. I have better logistics systems, better customer management systems, better tire monitoring systems. Believe it or not, you can put sensors within the rubber now. Is just a step in the right direction that you can't ignore. And so it's one of those things where it's not optional. You can't put it off. You're going to
Yeah.
be missing the mark. The other competitors are going to move forward.
Yeah,
So,
I think the
uh,
one you meant, even kind of in non-technology businesses, is the customer experience piece of that as well. So all the things you mentioned on how you can differentiate the product, but I think differentiating the customer experience is going to be huge, and how you're leveraging out AI, and the general public is going to have different expectations of what they should be getting from you as well. So I think that's another thing, as the collaboration and as the mindset of what to expect from customer experience, from a company, from a product, right? There's also that shift. So you also need to make sure you're keeping up or ahead of that too. A topic for a whole
absolutely.
nother another session, of course. But I just think that that's another evolution that we don't really talk about, is that if you don't make that change, well, the market is expecting that to be there, and so you fall even further behind because there's a perception issue.
I think it's applicable here because I think employees who are adopting this technology need to kind of understand the end game that's part of it. It's not like, well, this AI stuff will, make your job easier. Well, how? And by the way, what's the strategic end unit? I always hear from people when I'm, implementing AI systems, and certainly people who are line managers, things like that. Tell me what strategic purpose of this thing is. Why am I using it? Why am I going to training? Why am I understanding these different capabilities? I understand it's probably going to make some of the processes go faster, but it's the buy-in into that this stuff is going to have longer term value. And you can walk into cultures within organizations, they know it to a person. They know why you're there, why the AI system is going to be implemented. They're excited about it, and they're going to work with you on honing the different attributes of the system to get it working exactly right. So it's meshing in with the way in which they want to leverage the technology. So, if you could give practical advice for someone in charge of implementing AI right now and someone who's trying to build this into the culture, what would it be? And Matt, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, we're talking pretty high level generalities here, but I think my advice kind of goes back to what we've been echoing here is thinking through kind of end to end what this is going to take, right? There's different components of delivering AI. There's the model training, there's the augmentation, there's the fine tuning, there's the inference. I really think if you're not out there building those foundational models, is you really need to have a mindset of how do I move and focus my resources to augment, to fine tune, and then be able to get value with the inference and be ready for kind of next generation inference as we move towards agentic. So that's kind of a fundamental mind shift is how I think people have thought about AI, previously is how do I invest in these next two stages of AI and get my company ready? And I think from that perspective, there's still a data center component, but there's also very much a desktop kind of laptop desktop workstation component as well. Is is you may not need quite as much power, but how do I still have POCs? How do I keep innovation going? How do I do this fine tuning, this augmenting on a workstation or in the data center? And then where and how am I going to apply this this inference? And I think with the more powerful workstations and a lot of the data happening at the business edges is we're going to see a lot more of that inference go to high powered workstations. So I think that's kind of the thought process. It's like a fundamental shift of thinking about AI and applying AI is moving, upstream to closer to the value and thinking about how from the desktop and laptop workstation where people are going to be interacting and building it to the end goal of actually interacting and getting value from that AI. Where is that spectrum going to be? So kind of thinking through that.
I love that concept, your ability to understand and leverage desktop, into the data center and the ability to find value at both layers. I think that's often neglected. So, Nick, what are your thoughts here?
Well, I think this is probably the biggest advancement we've had since these guys showed up on the scene, right? And the other thing is, if you think about the last time that we went through this change with smartphones, it changed everyone's expectations of how technology is delivered and what is required. Work from anywhere became the thing, right? And we saw there was this bring your own device consumerization of IT kind of big scary thing that occurred, and there was a lot of security issues and challenges with that, right? And I would posit to you that if you're not already starting as a company, be prepared for the consumerization to shift into your sphere here. And shadow AI is probably even more alarming than shadow IT because every single person's a potential point of failure. The most mundane of notes and things of that we deal with day in and day out oftentimes have intellectual property considerations. So first and foremost, communicate early and often, have governance, have policy, and then, give them the tools, find a way to get them the tools that they need. Work, it needs to be top down, but it also needs to be bottom up, right? So you need to have an executive leading this because it's a bet the company type of initiative, but without, getting a sample size of people who are going to actually use the tools, you're going to miss. And so, get IT together with the business units, figure out your top use cases, centralize that effort, and go at it in a collaborative nature. And that's how you're going to be able to deliver the right tools.
I couldn't agree more. I think ultimately that's what comes down to. It has to be collaboration and your ability to kind of work together on making this all happen. So, larger
And
question.
can I have Dave
Sure, go
before we
ahead.
move on, I just want to jump on something Nick said. I think the use case perspective is huge too, right? So again, I think I talked earlier about the number of tools and things that and innovations that are out there. Like going and picking the one, the three, the five things for you to go start and try with. Like don't boil the ocean right out of the gates because it is overwhelming. So I think that's another important thing is really understanding your business, your company, and what are the top three things that you think might help you, and go work on those one, those two, those three things, as opposed to worrying about every new use case and future looking concept that you hear out there. So I think that will help ground people and give people a place to start and see immediate value, and then they can kind of move and grow from there. So, anyways, Nick, I thought that was a good add on your organization. Like
No, definitely. I couldn't
use
agree
case.
more. And it's kind of funny because like almost every organization I talk to has hundreds of use cases. In fact, I have a slide I put up and I go, "Don't try to read it; you'll go blind." Because I wanted to show how many use cases are out there. But the reality
I
is,
think I've seen that slide.
but with the
We
reality, I was gonna say the reality is, and we started that way too, right? The first, couple months of our journey, after Michael Dell said, we're going to be an AI company, we're going to use this, we're going to embrace this technology. Everyone, really jumped at it, and everyone was really excited and tried to do their part. But the reality is it took more focus to get to landing on the right three or four things. And now what we're seeing is sales is executing with their tools, marketing is their tools, developers, I think it's something like 80% of them are using the tools all the time for developing code. So it's really important to nail down those use cases and be really targeted.
So, last question before we get into the closing: how can Dell and Nvidia help? Nick, I'm going to go to you first.
Well, I mean, we've done a lot of great work with building a lot of educational materials and things of that nature. So we have an event that's going around the country, actually around the globe, Gen AI Days. So look out for that one. It's a collaboration with NVIDIA. There's also, our services team can sit down with you, and we have a 4-hour free workshop that they can run you through to just get you started and figuring out which direction you want to run here. And then there's also POCs. Like we have GitHub code that's out there that you can leverage. NVIDIA Launchpad. There's plenty of ways you can get started if you just want to get your hands dirty there. But yeah, I would just say reach out to your Dell sales rep, talk to them about those options, and whether it's getting a better strategy or whether it's investing that time in the strategy side or just getting started with a POC. There's a lot we can help with there.
What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I think it's important to really highlight the partnership our companies have had together. Right? I think we're coming up on 400,000 hours of joint engineering. And what that's resulted in, we call it the Dell AI Factory with NVIDIA. It's like we've taken all the guesswork out of this, right? The learnings that we have from the AI infrastructure. Of course, we love our accelerated computing with GPUs and networking, but that goes into the laptops, the workstations, the servers, the storage solutions, that are coming from Dell. Um, Pairing that with the right AI software and the right AI models, and then the services, Dell services on top of that, right? That 1, 2, 3 really builds up our AI factory and differentiates that factory. That makes it very low risk, really accelerates the time to value, and gives you a place to start and grow your AI factory. So I think that's really what when I look at what we've done together and what we can offer companies is that productized solution based on all those learnings, right? Making sure we get the best performance, the best throughput, the best energy efficiency, and then really highlighting around use cases. I think Nick and I call them the big 6 use cases, but we really are targeting some of those: content creation, digital assistant, digital twins, design and content creation, code generation, computer vision, like looking at all those reusable use cases or horizontal use cases. And we've solutionized and have an end-to-end solution. Again, that's gonna get you there quick. So,
I think it's great advice. And just thinking about, I've been working with Dell equipment since the 80s and NVIDIA stuff since the 90s. Kind of
yeah.
dates myself there. It's just company's been around for a long period of time. And I think it's great that you guys are making such great inroads into the AI space and helping people achieve their goals, which I think is absolutely critical to us getting this stuff right. It's expensive, but it's actually important. And it's critical that we get this right within the organizations. And we need to think strategically about how this stuff is going to be adopted, not only at the machine level, the ability to kind of build these systems, but getting the culture right, getting the humans right, getting the training right, and getting the ethical considerations around this right, and everything really kind of firing on cylinders. Thank you, Nick and Matt, for sharing your valuable insights with us today. I thought it was an amazing conversation, and it's clear that driving AI adoption is going to require us to think strategically about this technology, including effective communication and strong collaboration between IT and business units. For those interested in learning more about Dell AI Factory with NVIDIA, you can visit this website. I'm putting up on the screen right now. And also, don't forget to like, subscribe, check out our other videos. Thank you very much for joining us. You guys have a great week.